Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Swish for real. My boy Boogie Bob. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great. Thanks for
Good.
having me.
I can't get the show off until I got you on. So we are helping each other out, getting this thing cracking, and we're doing a great job, man. And I appreciate you always coming on and being one of those guys that is very dependable. So, have you been peeping out the Olympics, particularly as far as the Olympic basketball games? I've been trying to watch not only the men's but the women's, but I want to talk about the men's particularly because I know we talked about them last week and we was kind of surprised where how they were playing, and they just narrowly beat Serbia. What are your thoughts on the Olympic team now, and how do they fare in the gold medal game?
I I, I, I you know how I always like to bring stats.
Thanks.
Stephen Curry hadn't been shooting very well, and Steve Kerr said just a matter of time. He shot 9 of 14 from 3-point range last night.
Nice. 9
The
of 14.
the starters, the starters for the US men's Olympic team were 15 of 25 from 3-point range.
15 from
15
25.
of 25 for the starters. The whole team was 50%.
From
They were
3?
16 of 32.
Dang, that's amazing.
So they took less 3-point shots than Serbia, but they made 50%. And, when your starters go 15 to 25 from 3-point range, it's a pretty good winning formula.
I agree.
And the second thing I'll point out, LeBron had a triple double.
Yep.
We're used
Facts.
to hearing about that in the NBA. Not as many minutes played. He played 36 minutes. Not as many minutes in the game. Not as many touches. But the the fact that he got a triple double at age 40 is surprising enough. But the more
Hmm.
surprising statistic is there's only been four triple doubles in the history of the Olympics men's basketball.
I did not know that.
And LeBron has one of the other four.
Wow. Who are the other four? The other three, rather.
I couldn't find who had the other two.
But you got how many you have that you're on your list?
So LeBron has half. He has half of the triple doubles in Olympic history.
What? So he had
He
two twice in the
he's
Olympic
done it
history.
twice, and it's only been done 4 times.
Oh wow.
And he did this six. He was what 16 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, something like that. 16, 12, and 12, or 16, 12, and 10 at age 40.
And that's what's the most amazing part about that age 40 and you dropping dimes and getting that type of production out of himself. And I can definitely let me look at the box score and I can tell you exactly what he had.
Yeah, he had over 30 minutes, if I remember right. I looked at the box scores. I think he had 36 minutes, more minutes than anybody else.
So they
Uh,
had him as let's see, LeBron James, 12 rebounds. What do you have point wise? Doesn't give you the exact point. Oh, this is the total. 12 rebounds, team stats. Let me look right here. It doesn't give you the whole stat on this guy,
yes,
but
so
it only
on
shows his 12
ESPN
rebounds.
under Olympics, I pulled up the game and then pulled up the box score, and I think it was 16, 12, and 12 and 10. Uh, what's I mean, it's not surprising in a way, but in another way, it is. Stephen Curry, LeBron, and KD are carrying this team. There's they got Embiid so they had somebody go up against Jokic, and I
So let me
still think
ask you a question real quick on Joel Embiid. Why is he getting booed so much? every time he touches the ball.
He antagonized one of the games early on in the elimination rounds, and I don't know if it was against France or something, but he basically trash talked Wimby. He said, "I'm on this Olympic team to take care of VW," and the French didn't take very kindly to that.
That's
And
crazy.
Wimby to France is like Dirk is to Germany.
Yeah.
Germany went pretty far. So I mean that the fact that Embiid's there and he's scoring, but they're not leaning on him to go dominate. I mean, Steph, LeBron, and KD, they're carrying the scoring load, and Drew Holiday only had 3 points last night.
Mm.
So the other thing I think was a big factor in that game was Jokic got in foul trouble, and uh, Bogdanovich and their other player were scoring, but Jokic didn't have his usual triple double game. He
Nah,
didn't
and
have that many
Bogdanovich
points.
going off. I mean, Bob Donovich, man, that dude was going off.
Yeah, isn't that the Bogdanovich that was in Detroit? He was in Utah, and then got traded to Detroit, and then I think he got traded to, was it Philly? Might have got
Right.
traded to Philly. I know
I
he
thought
got
he
traded after Detroit. He got traded somewhere around the draft.
wasn't he in Sacramento not too long ago?
Well, yeah, that was the Bogdanovich, and there's both of them have the same first and last name. So
Mm.
Bogdanovich. So one was in Sacramento, ended up in it. There's one that ended up in Atlanta, and the other one was Utah and ended up in Detroit.
That's crazy. What a coincidence. I didn't even know that. I thought it was the same person.
So I mean, they I, th- if they play defense and they come out strong, aggressive, I think they'll go ahead and take the gold. Uh, French are not going to be they're not going to be a pushover. That's for sure.
Nah, especially who they have on a squad. They got a nice squad. And the Olympic team for US has really been putting on a great show. They only had two really competitive games, if you ask me, in my opinion. The first game they played against South Sudan, I guess that was just a kind of a throwaway game, was like 1 point win for them. And then the one they just played against Serbia when they just barely won by 4. It is
They
something to say.
outscored them 32-15 in the fourth quarter.
Right, and it's something to say about the world itself. It's really caught up with American basketball, especially when they want to play competitive. Only difference I think that the Americans have versus the world, Americans are more aggressive and they more flashy a little bit more than the world is. But the world, as far as skill wise, they have us kind of that they have a hat for that one. They can hang their hat on skill wise, and the Americans can hang their hat on athleticism and flashiness. So I think the world is actually catching up.
Yeah, that's going to come up. That'll be one of my points in one of the later discussions.
Okay.
Uh, they've had they what in the FIBA they didn't win gold, and it was disappointing. And Ant Man hadn't been getting a lot of playing time, and neither is Tatum. Uh, I think this is going to help Tatum over. Why he's seeing what LeBron James is doing. He says he gets in the gym early in the morning. LeBron's already working, and he's like he sees the Kobe esque work ethic. So
Mm.
Tatum has been very impressed with how LeBron's carried himself. Uh, and maybe it'll be the passing of the torch, but I really think those three guys they they want to live up to the redemption team. They want gold on, they still want to tell the world, hey, y'all got some great players, but we're still the best.
And
And how
especially
about the
with
women's team?
yeah, they They've been really demolishing everybody they play. It's just unfair at this point. But I know the controversy is Caitlin Clark. Why hasn't she been able to get on this team? And there's been some feedback, or well, I guess you can say hate, that she hasn't got on the team. And then the Olympic Committee, I guess whoever put the team together, was saying it's all about athletics. No, well, the I guess seniority for the most point. But when you want a girl who has this type of aura when it comes to basketball for the WNBA to be playing that way, it'll bring more eyes and more notoriety to that league. But I don't know.
She knows her time's coming. I didn't sense that she was upset about it. She was like, "I need a break. I've been playing." She went straight from college and NCAA tournament straight into WNBA, so she hadn't
Hmm.
had a break in like a year. She played in the uh, FIBA or qualifying tournament, I think, the year before. But I was reading today, uh, the women won today, and four of their players or starters on the New York Liberty that won the WNBA championship last year,
Yeah.
including Aja Wilson, who has won an MVP and been in the MVP discussion. So, and then you got Brianna Stewart. I mean, you you basically have the best of the WNBA all on the American team. Even though a couple of the Australian team they played had 4 or 5 players on playing in the WNBA. So
And they really been waxing everybody they face. Let me give you some of the scores. Their first game was pretty close. Belgium, 79. The women US was 81. Nigeria had 46. And the US women had 100. Senegal, you would think all those girls out there are tall, which most of the guys out there are tall. They had 39, and the US women had 101. And then versus Team WNBA, I don't know what that is. But let's go into, let's see, Germany faced off against Germany, and that was 84 women's US and then 57 for Germany. They faced off against Japan, that was 102. And the women had, US women had 102, and Japan had 76. And again, they faced off Belgium again, and this time they beat Belgium barely by 7. So it was 87 to 74 that game. And then they faced off against Germany again, and they beat Germany by 19, which it was 87 and 68. It's been some really, really good games for the ladies. So they've really been showing that they can play and they can compete, and they've just been beating people, I
yeah,
guess, by an average of 15 points.
the gloves are on right now because they're playing for gold. But come next Friday when they all go to their separate WNBA teams, the gloves come back off.
Now, facts. And I've been really impressed by Asia Wilson, man. She's amazing.
She's got good handles, quick feet, good acceleration, good deceleration.
And I would think if anybody would compare it to a man in the NBA, she's more like Luca, if you ask me my opinion. But only thing she doesn't have is that 3-point shot that Luca has.
Yeah, probably an earlier version of Jalen Brunson.
Brunson. Yeah, you're right. You're right. She's really good. You're really good. All right. Any more things you want to talk about as far as the Olympic team?
Uh, I'm the one thing is does this make Tatum a better player when he gets back to Boston?
Do you think he'll win the if they go back to the championship and win it again, will he be the MVP, or is it still
I
Brown?
think he's growing up being around LeBron, and Ant Man is definitely going to learn from watching
From
LeBron.
LeBron. Yeah. LeBron, he just keeps himself in shape. He keeps himself healthy, and he doesn't mind doing all the dirty work that a lot of players don't do. He's
Yeah,
always known to play defense,
well, he
which I
scored the
like.
winning bucket when they beat Sudan, and
Yep,
so
he did.
Refuse
All
to
right.
lose.
I'm sorry.
LeBron has that refuse to lose attitude.
Yeah, and same thing with Curry, so it can't knock him off the conversation as well. But
So can
speaking
you
of,
imagine if Golden State can pull off? I mean, they even talk about trading for Trey Young, but can you imagine if they were able to pull off a trade with Golden State and get Stephen Curry to the Lakers?
that would be unfair because you'd have AD, LeBron, and Steph Curry. So I don't think Golden State's about to dismantle that team like that just yet. Even though Steph and LeBron are actually looking like they can play together, even if they're not in the Olympics, I think there's a good opportunity for them if they did make that trade for them to really dominate the league for a couple of years, especially they're getting older, but they will make the championship. And I don't see who's going to stop Steph and who's going to stop LeBron, who's going to stop AD. It's just too much if that happened. And plus, you got to think of Austin Reeves too. So it's just too much. But
That says he wants to finish his career in Golden State, but never say never. You know,
thanks.
Steve Kerr leaves, and maybe Curry wants another ring, and
Yeah.
sees LeBron playing in the Olympics. He's like, you know what? I want to go there.
yeah. Speaking of good roster moves, what about Dallas? They've been looking really good this past summer when it comes to moves and moving and grooving. They've added some key pieces defensively and offensively, and Spencer Dinwiddie is back with the team. What are your thoughts on what the Mavs have done in the offseason? And I could tell you who all they have if you like, but I'll let you talk about that question. What do you think they've done? How you think they're going to perform next
You
year
know,
with that?
last week I rated them the third best off season. Uh, and it's kind of hard to talk about the Mavs roster without sounding like a homer. But trying to be unbiased, they improved their depth. They by adding Clay and Najee and Quentin Grimes,
hmm
just those three, you improved your depth and improved your championship experience. That's before they signed Spencer Dinwiddie. So I think people are underestimating Quentin Grimes. I mean, we like Josh Howard because he was flashy, like you mentioned earlier. His athlete, he was running and jumping. He could sky through the air, but if he had to win a tip off, he didn't jump so great. It's what we used to
Yeah.
call the jump forward instead of jump up. But I think you're going to see Grimes is better ball handler, can create his own shot and give you as much defensively as Josh Green got.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
they have. I know he went 0 for 10 in his last game, but you can't deny that Clay Thompson isn't a clutch shooter. 2 years ago, he took the least amount of dribbles in the entire NBA. You know, he'll take maybe an escape dribble. Uh, I was watching some highlights of Dirk's best plays they had on ESPN the other day, and he never took more than two dribbles. Even when he
Facts.
was going to the hole or he's posting up or he's at the elbow, he never took more than two dribbles. And that's what used to coach in rec league. It's like if you take more than two dribbles, their defense is going to recuperate and you're going to get the ball stolen. So, I think that's Clay doesn't have to have the ball. He knows how to move without the ball. Uh, we know Kyrie's a clutch fourth quarter player. We definitely know Luka's a clutch player, but the flamethrower, Tim Hardaway Jr., like which one are you getting? Are you getting Jekyll or Hyde? You know, shoot you in a game or shoot you out of a game. And you never knew which Tim Hardaway Jr. you were going to get. That's not to say Clay won't have some streaks in him, but he's not afraid to take a shot, unlike Maxi Kleba, who hesitates. You know, it's the worst. That's the worst thing a shooter can do is hesitate. You hesitate, you're generally going to miss. Clay's one of the masters at catching it in the pocket and letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think I love Spencer Dinwiddie. He might not be the player he was 3 years ago when they went to the Western Conference, but he can handle the ball. Uh, Dante Exum gave him something, but he was a straight line dribbler. He wasn't much east west. He
Mm.
was north south dribbler. So Spencer Dinwiddie, if you look back the Monte Ellis type of footage, he can go more than north and south. And you add Quentin Grimes on top of that. So you've added two additional ball handlers. I mean, they trained him to make Josh Green into a ball handler, but when somebody got within arm's distance of him, he's like, "Oh, I got to pass it." He didn't have any confidence, even though he practiced it. He didn't have, he just so you got two experienced ball handlers, uh, and then the most locally it's talked about, but nationally it's not. Is look for a dramatic improvement in D line.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
You
we
think
know
he's
what he
gonna
can do
shoot more three
defensively.
pointers? You think he's gonna
What
shoot more 3-pointers this season?
they've showed his practices from 3-pointer, and they've showed
Yeah.
his pick and pop. So there's been a lot of video on Facebook about his practice routine and some of the moves he's making and some of the drills he's doing with Tyson Chandler. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
if Coach Kidd turns him loose, all you got to do is take one or two of those a game. And now the alley oop is whoa, 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 whoa. We got to go out and guard this guy at the 3-point line. So, and he's got great form. He's working on it. And probably one of the, other than Wemby, he's probably one of the best bigs at recovering. So when he comes up and flashes up high and the ball rotates, he's very good at recovering. Gafford's good at just the low post, but Eli is really good at recovery, which tells me he's got quick feet. So he had a couple nicks and bruises and some minor injuries. I think that's the biggest improvement you're going to see. The additional pieces, great, uh, but what we get out of Eli in the second year, even if he's coming off the bench, I expect he was finishing the games even in the finals. So even if
Mm-hmm.
Gafford starts, expect Eli to get most of the minutes.
I agree with that. So with the trade deadline coming up next year, typically it comes in right before the summer. Do you think there will be any major moves for Dallas? Who, and if so, who would they move?
Well, there's three people that they've been talking about most likely to get traded. Exum, Kleba, and Powell,
Mm-hmm.
all on very good contracts. But I don't know if you watched any of the summer league. This Jameer, the 7'5" guy that can move.
Yeah, I seen him. They signed him to a two-way contract.
Yeah, uh, there's rumors that they're looking to make it a full contract and being the fifth, moving moving AJ Lawson off the
And,
roster and putting him on as a full contract.
yeah, Lawson, yeah, I don't know what they can do with Lawson. He's a good shooter. He plays really hard, but I think he's not going to get enough playing time because he's just another guard. And if you have so many guards on your roster, what do you do?
He's 6'7", so I mean he's a good 3 and D. He's a good practice player, but having the luxury of having a 7'5" guy that when Porzingis, when KP turns to shoot, there's somebody just as tall as him and probably a lot quicker. And
Oh yeah.
with Wemby, you then you've got a two-headed monster that can guard Wemby between Deli and uh, what's his last name? Is it White? I think. Uh,
White.
I there's I mean, Sagana dropped that we talked about last week. They've always
Yeah.
had some Solomesri, Boban. They've always had a guy that was like really, really tall and had one really good skill set. And the two things in college that transfer to the NBA are block shots and rebounding. He averaged like 2.6 rebound or 2.6 blocks a game and pretty good rebounds. So we'll see. If he's your third center, I'm like, can't complain.
Yeah, his name is Jay Sharp.
Sharp.
Yeah. So he's 7'5" center, and they've had some pretty good players in the summer league as far as dads go. Ajinka is one I really like. He's been really showing
Yeah,
up.
he signed to go over in France. But they found Dorian Finney Smith, Dodo. He was on someone else's summer league team. So Marquise Daniels, the same thing. They've had several undrafted free agents that they, you know, Al Farouk Amino. They seem to
That
just pluck
dude,
those guys out of the hat.
he came
I,
from Portland though.
overall, I think they improved their depth, which was pretty good already.
Uh-huh.
And I think you got another weapon in Clay, and you got more. Marshall and Grimes are going to give you more offensively than you expect.
Yeah, I think the roster itself looks like it's going to be able to compete in the West because the West is like the hardest. I don't know what people think about the East for sure. I know a lot of people think, and I'm just just throwing it out there that
So
the
we
East
need
is
to
a
get
little
a
softer.
shirt like these were made and just put on there and see if we can trademark it. Smash Brothers.
Oh yeah,
We need to trademark that. We got it on the podcast, so we know it came here first. But now we got Splash and Smash.
splash and smash. That sounds dope. So speaking of guys who was really a splash in the NBA back in the days, Bonzi Wells, the guy was like to me, he and Zach Randolph complimented each other so much. And they played almost similar games. I wanted to kind of go over some of the career of Bonzi Wells. What are your thoughts when you've seen him play? And is he a Hall of Famer? And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he made it. But what are your thoughts on Bonzi Wells and how good was he? And who do you think?
I mean, when I first saw that on the what we were going to talk about tonight, I was like, I remember the name. Uh, I couldn't tell you whether it was because it was flashy, but I remembered the name. I, I don't really think he was a high draft pick, but I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. He played at Ball State,
Yep.
so you know he's already behind the eight ball, so to speak, because he didn't play for Division One school. But he had a 10-year career back when most players' average length of their career was 4 or 5 years. So that speak 10-year longevity back in the early 2000s. That was not common. Uh, I looked up his stats. His career stats were 12 points. You know, not a lot of assists, 4 or 5 assists. Not a lot of rebounds. To me, he was your quintessential backup point guard.
Mm,
He's that guy that every team needs on their second string that can steady the ship and run the show, but not quite good enough uh, when they had to play against starters. That's kind of the way I looked at Bonzi Wells, kind of a career backup.
wow. And even though he played for some really good teams, he played for the Rockets when they were good in 2007, 2008. And then after that, the Pelicans and then the Rockets again. And then he went to the Kings, which he played 1 year with them. And then the Grizzlies is where I really remember him from. He started really playing well
A
with the
very
Grizzlies.
young Grizzlies team,
Yep.
a
Yep.
very young franchise, and a very young Grizzlies team. But he played the majority of his career in Portland.
Yep. And that's what I was gonna say. After the Grizzlies, he went to the Trailblazers for 1 year and went back to the Grizzlies, and then the final seasons he had in the NBA were with the Trailblazers. I think he played one, two, three, four,
It
five,
it's
six
he's
years.
one of those players you remember the name and then say, "Well, what do you remember him for?" You're like, I don't know."
I just remember him because he was like a tough player, and I know when they played against the Mavs, he always seemed to like step his game up against the Mavs, no matter when he played against us. And I believe, let's see, was it 2007 when he was with the
There's
Rockets?
always there's always those guys that could light it up against the Mavs, and the Mavs would trade for him, and they wouldn't do anything. But you had uh, even though Bonzi is much bigger, you had your Muggsy Bogues, that come in. I'm trying to think some of the other. There was a guard at New York that was pretty good that came in off the bench that was pretty steady.
Are you talking about
Uh,
Jeremy Lin?
uh, keep wanting to say
Are you talking about current or past?
no. This was like late '90s, early 2000. The
I
guy
know
that
there was
Mark
Allen.
backed up Mark Jackson. And he come in and we're
Was
not talking Vinnie Johnson type of backup, but the NBA's been littered with like Schroeder used to be a backup point guard until a few teams tried to make him a starter. Uh,
mm,
Modern day guy. So I think Bonzi was kind of in that. He was on the cusp of like depending on what team. If it's a bad team, he's capable of being a starter, but on a really good team, he's your really solid backup.
facts. And I just remember him playing against us and being a terror. Him and Zach Randolph just gave us the business. Because didn't Zach Randolph go from Portland to the Grizzlies as well?
Yeah, Zebo played there, and I think they played together at Memphis too.
Hmm. And that just they both have similar games in my opinion, but Zebo was more of a threat than Bonzi Wells. But Bonzi Wells is just it kind of remind and that wasn't that the when they called them the jail blazers at the time when Bonzi Wells was on that squad as well.
He, uh, I was trying to look at the team and see which team. So think it was after Damon Stoudemire and before Brandon Roy. Think he was that guy in between. Remember, Damon Stoudemire was like the guy in Portland for a while,
Facts.
and
Coming from Toronto. Was it Toronto Grizzlies or that was the Raptors, Toronto. No, it was what was the Canada was it the Grizzlies? They came from
just like if you go way back, Chris Jackson.
hmm
Uh,
for Denver, right?
Well, he played for a lot of teams. I think he played for Sacramento, New Orleans. He was famous for turning his back when they played the national anthem, and then he changed his name to
Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
yeah,
I remember that. I remember that. Everybody hated him. And then when he turned back around, he would put his hands like this and pray because
yeah.
he was a renowned Muslim.
You watch some film with him. He made some passes. Jason Williams is another guy that's kind of like on that Bonzi Wells. Uh, you know,
But I think
10
Bonzi
years
Wells.
back then. 10 years was a pretty good career.
No, facts. And I believe he could have been much more serviceable if he would have just played on a championship type team. Maybe he would have been like your Scottie Pippen type guy. That's what I was thinking because he could shoot and play defense. And again, he gave the Mavs a fit when we played against them.
He was definitely a high flyer, full of energy type player.
Facts, facts, facts. And I appreciate his career. And I think, just mentioning him makes us think about the old days when we played against Portland. And thinking of the old days, this kid here was when he came in the league from out of high school. out of high school, like Kobe, Kevin Garnett. He is like one of the prime power forwards that been in the league that has made notoriety for himself. He just was an amazing player. If you had to look at him all-time ranking as power forwards, where would you set him and why would you set him there as far as your particular ranking?
Uh, First, before I tear him down, I'm gonna say I love KG. He was at Minnesota, like nobody on the Mavs could stop him. And he won a chip, won a ring with Boston. And I think was '08, and then in '09 they got beat by the Lakers. So they went to back to back. He took a Minnesota team with Latrice Spreewell, and I think Vernon Maxwell was on that team.
Stephon
Uh,
Marbury.
Wa- Wally Zerbiak,
Yep.
and they took them to the Western Conference. And until this last year, Minnesota had never made it to the Western Conference other than that one KG team. But I think he played on a couple of Olympic teams as well. So he's he's highly rated on the all-time list, the one that just came out, and he's rated above Dirk. I think Tim Duncan was rated higher than KG, but not much. Uh, I, they both have one ring, so if you measure there, it's a dead heat. You look at number of points scored, Dirk's clearly the winner there. You look at defensive player of the year and defensive marks, KG's there. So I mean, it's kind of like the classic Emmett Smith versus Barry
Barry
Sanders
Sanders.
argument.
Yeah.
Uh, I think Dirk gets his recognition, gets his flowers, but Dirk wasn't flashy. What we were talking about earlier, he just went to work. You know, he dunked a lot early in his career, but he didn't start doing his tongue wag and doing this or even the three until later in his career when he realized it was playing to the fans. But KG was flashy. It's like you got this 6'10", 6'11" guy that just can jump through the gym.
Hmm.
It- he was Dwight Howard before Dwight Howard came in the league, and a lot more polished offensively. But KG was underrated as for so long until he started getting nominated for Defensive Player of the Year. So I think because of that, and he's American and he's flashy, they rated him higher than Dirk. Uh, I don't. Of course, the local press went bonkers over that. It's like you can make a case for either way, but uh, it's a coin flip. Uh, if you took both KG and Dirk in their prime, who would you rather start a team and build around?
Mm. Offensively, Dirk. Defensively, KG. Who would you build around first?
Uh, Mr. Fundamental probably would get the nod over both of those two because he was both offensive and defensively good.
And that's Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan. But he had the privilege of growing up playing his first year with David Robinson, and then later, people forget Avery Johnson was a point guard on that first national or NBA championship
Championship
team.
team. And I was just thinking the same thing. He played with Avery Johnson, Tony
And,
Parker, and
yeah,
Ginobili.
Parker and Ginobili were later, but they had Bruce Bowen and Sean Elliott and
Roy
even
or
Danny Manning,
Robert Horry, right?
Robert Horry a little bit. So he has some veterans to learn, but uh, it didn't matter. He favored going over his right shoulder, but he could go over his right or his left shoulder, and he was going to get his points. And defensively, he played him at center, but they played him forward. He was he wasn't flashy like KG. He was more like but he's more like Luka in that he barked at the referees all the time. If you remember, Crawford teed him up twice in the playoffs and ejected him. So
And then he get teed up while he was sitting on the bench.
yeah, I don't know what it was he said, but he's right about one call. He got teed up. Then he went. Crawford, he's no longer referee in the NBA, but he went after him. He teed him up again. It's like, you're out. And after that, they wouldn't let Crawford referee any of the Western Conference Finals or NBA Finals after that. It was a
Oh
big
wow.
controversy.
I didn't even know that.
I don't know. Do you want consistency or you want flash? It's like Dirk was a solid rebounder. You know, I always say at a game, defense doesn't end until you rebound the ball. And he was a very good defensive rebounder, even though he wasn't that. I mean, he could get up, but he wasn't known as a leaper.
Are you
I
talking about
think
Dirk, right?
I think Kevin Garnett's rating on defense is just because he swatted the ball out of the gym. You know, how many hand rakes did we see the Karl Malone raked by Dirk? He didn't move his feet. The guy would go up for a layup, all of a sudden the ball's not there, and
And
he
that's
wasn't called for a foul, and yet no one considers that defense. So, uh, yeah, his defense was underrated. KG's offense was underrated. So, who would I build around? That, that, that's a tough call.
yeah. Yeah, because KG, he can get you the defense, get the rebounds. Not saying that Dirk was a sham at rebounding. He wasn't bad. But if I had to build again a team, I probably would pick KG just basically because I'm a defensive minded guy. Dirk, yeah, he probably shoot the way I want KG to shoot, but you can surround KG with shooters and he can pretty much play the good defense and get you some buckets down low as well. And he's gonna get the
He was
rebound.
a good low post player. What I'll give is he never carried his team by himself. You know, Ray Allen and Paul Pierce when they won the Dirk. Dirk had to basically carry that whole Mavericks team in 2011. He averaged like 20. I think it was like 28 points in the final, or no, the Western Conference Finals, and 24 in the finals. Uh, and I think it was I saw something in the finals. He averaged 24, 10 rebounds, and forget the assist, but he didn't make one 3-pointer. He didn't even attempt a 3-pointer.
In the finals?
One of them, either the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, there was one of them where he averaged over 20 plus
And did
20.
not shoot one
Didn't make,
three-pointer.
didn't shoot or take or make a 3-pointer.
Oh wow. I didn't
You
even
think
know that.
about averaging 24 points and not taking a 3-pointer. I mean, that tells you you're living on the line, you know? Dirk gets you 20 and shoot 10 or 12 shots in a game. Uh, it's pretty darn efficient. So,
So let me ask you this question then. Would you put Kevin Garnett above Karl Malone?
no,
And your reasons why?
the mailman always delivered.
What about put him above Charles
A-
Barkley?
And remember, I saw mailman play in college against Wayman Tisdale
Yeah, I
before
remember.
he's known in the NBA. You know, Stockton gets a lot of credit, but mid-range jump shot out to 20 feet, low post, rebound, defense. I mean, yeah, I'd take the mailman.
All right. So if I'd say the best all-time power forwards from 1 to 5, give me who are your 1 and who is your 5 and, in between.
You know, that'd be a great question for the next show.
All
Because I
right,
think
well,
we've covered centers, we've covered guards. top 5. We covered even shooting guards. I don't think we've covered power forwards.
All right, we'll
Uh,
leave that for a later
the one
discussion.
guy we haven't talked about was Kevin McHale was pretty dang good power forward, and James Worthy was pretty dang good power forward.
That is a fact of a matter. Oh, and Paul Gasol was a great power forward, and his brother Mark.
Powell, yeah, Mark played more center. Powell played, I wouldn't call it power forward. He's more of a stretch forward. I
Gotcha.
wouldn't really even call Dirk a power forward, even though that's what they labeled him. He was, they now call it a stretch four.
Yeah, especially if you shoot out there.
Debo was more of a power forward than Dirk.
Yeah, and
And
I
then
can't forget my favorite power forward is Chris Webber.
well, Chris Webber got to be up there, but you can't forget about Rasheed Wallace either.
Nah, you can't, and Ben Wallace for that matter. So you have some power
So
forwards that really play
I'd
great
have to put a
position.
list together because there uh, there was a lot of really good power forwards, especially in the '90s, late '80s and '90s.
I agree. I agree. So, if a lot of the viewers now, and I appreciate all you viewers, man. We really appreciate you guys watching our channel. It's growing. We appreciate all the things that you respond to as far as the comments go. We try to respond back as much as we can. If we don't get to respond back, please forgive us. But the last video story video we did, it was on Kobe Bryant, and it's got about 500 views. It's not like top tier, you know what I mean, as far as viewership goes, but it's pushing. Our Roy Tarpley story had about 2,400 views thus far, which is not bad either for a small channel that which we're growing. So a lot of you guys probably didn't get. If you have not seen the Kobe Bryant video, I recommend you go try to take a look at it because it's a really good
Go
video.
to Swish for real and see.
Exactly.
Subscribe,
Please
subscribe.
subscribe. Subscribe. So, Bob, we had our conversation about the video even before we dropped it. I'm pretty sure you had an opportunity to kind of watch it a couple of times and soak it in a little bit. Give me your thoughts. And I mean, me and you coach basketball, and we know what the video means to us. But let's let the audience know what the video means to us in our own words. So, kind of describe what you thought about the Kobe Bryant video and what message were we trying to relay with it.
Well, first of all, props to you for a very well produced piece,
Thank you, thank you,
very well narrated.
thank you.
Uh, kids today grow up with LeBron.
Yep.
LeBron to me was magic. Kobe was the closest we've had to MJ, Michael Jordan, for those that don't know. Uh, I thought it was very, very well produced. Uh, I like the theme. So if you haven't seen it, watch it because even if your kids don't play sports, teaching them a good work ethic, no matter what they choose, whether they want to be an accountant, a finance, you know, mortician, whatever career they want to go into, work ethic is what separates the goats from the sheep.
Facts.
And so that watch that video, you'll get a sense about Kobe and his dedication. Uh, Early in his career, he had some controversy. Uh, like you mentioned in the video, he was 17. The
Hmm.
NBA changed the rules where you couldn't come out of high school. He spoke multiple languages. Uh, the one thing is, in the video he mentioned, this I blame the NBA on this, is that drafted by Charlotte. To me, he
Mm,
wasn't drafted by Charlotte. It was a draft day, draft night deal made between the Lakers and Charlotte. Just the funky rules that the NBA has about who drafted who. Milwaukee did not draft Dirk. They want to say, "Oh, Milwaukee drafted Dirk, traded him for tractor trailer." No, that was already worked out ahead of time. It's just there's all kinds of those funky. Like you look up who drafted who, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute, you never played for them." Yeah, well, that's because the NBA is messed up that way. Uh, what most people forget is who LA. traded for. And I think Jerry West was still the GM at the time, who just passed away. He traded Bloody Divac and Eddie Jones.
Yep. And those two players were actually really, really good if you ever go back and see some of their highlights.
They were both very good players. But, Jerry West had an eye for talent,
Mhm.
and he knew his dad. Uh, he had seen this was before Sonny Vaccaro and Nike, and all those camps. Uh, they traveled abroad and played overseas. His dad played overseas and came back, but he finished his high school. As a freshman, he made the varsity team. We still see that. You have one of your nephew, I think, was a played on varsity as a freshman when somebody got hurt. The Monty.
The money. Oh, I was thinking which nephew.
So I mean, you hear people as a freshman making the varsity, but making the varsity as a freshman and dominating and being the best player in the league and the best player in your city. And Philly was known who is like Chicago or New York. They were known for their. So I like how you touched on that. Uh, the one thing that and you touched about how you knew more than one language.
Mhm.
There's a video. Luca, his rookie year, he made a shot and he's coming back. He's near the sideline and he hears somebody heckling him in Slovenian.
Yep.
And he turns around and it was Kobe sitting next to Gianna. And Kobe was giving him an earful in Slovenia. And then they got a picture of them both laughing about it. Uh,
Yeah, I remember that. Dang, I should have added that.
and then uh, there was just today there was in the video feed on Facebook they had some Kobe highlights, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the Olympics that there's been a lot more posted, but this was a classic Dirk Kobe matchup. Kobe's
Mm.
like, I want to guard Dirk, and they're both later in their careers. And Dirk gets in his mouse in the house, back in his goes into his setup for the one-legged fadeaway, and he gives Kobe an update. And Kobe, like, I'm going to get to it. He goes skying, like way up in the air to try to get it. Dirk comes down, up and under, and then goes to the rim. And
Dang.
as they're coming down, and it's in this highlight video, as they're coming down the court, they're high fiving each other and laughing. And Kobe's like pointing at us, said, "You got me, you got me." Uh, so that controversy, uh, the rape charge that he had
In
uh,
Colorado?
in Colorado
Yeah.
doesn't come up much because he turned life around and family man. Uh, very much supported women's athletics, but just a great citizen. But early on, there was a lot of Kobe haters, and I told people, I said, you may hate the guy personally, but I said you got to appreciate his talent. I've said that only about maybe two or three players have I said that about. So even if you hated the Lakers, you hated Kobe. Uh, he was when he was on the court. He was going to put it to you. And a lot of people hated it to him because you couldn't stop him. If he wanted, what did he score? 81 points and didn't even play the fourth quarter. So
Facts.
in his last game, he scored 62 points or something,
61.
61.
Yep.
So you know they criticized him. He didn't pass the ball enough. And think about it, he won 2 championships with Pau Gasol and 3 with Shaq. Uh,
Yeah.
and there was a video 2 days ago. They were interviewing Shaq and they asked him what they regretted most about. And he said when he first got a text and a phone call about Kobe passing away, he said, "Oh, he thought somebody was pranking him." And then he got
Mm.
several phone calls, and he's like, "It can't be." and he said his biggest regret was shoulda, coulda, woulda, and
Mm,
he said he should have called him more often. He goes, "We may have had our differences, we may not have saw eye to eye. He was an alpha, I was an alpha," and I'm quoting, paraphrasing Shaq. He said,
mhm.
"But when we were on the court, we were out for blood." He said, "The two of us saw eye to eye and we played, and wasn't nobody gonna stop us." He goes, "But I could have called him more often. I should have called him more often." Uh, so that was Shaq speaking about Kobe.
Yeah,
And, it was a big loss, not only for the NBA, but just in general. And uh, there were 7 other girls on that helicopter that
yeah.
died that day, and
Well,
a
7 other people.
coach and a parents.
Yeah, and yeah, that Sunday night morning was crazy.
So, uh, and the one thing, uh, I don't think it was in the video, but I've seen a lot of documentary. The Michael Michael Jordan used to say Kobe called him so often when he was young and first in the league that Michael Jordan said he wore him out. And so Michael treated him as his little brother, and they
Yep.
loved competing against each other. And they asked Michael Jordan, I think he even mentioned it in The Last Dance. Uh, but Michael Jordan said Kobe just wanted to be great.
We had the best, and I guess you could say, person to emulate was in Michael Jordan because everything that Kobe did, he emulated Michael Jordan. And a lot of things that his teammates would speak about were those early morning blackouts where you work so hard as far as practice and exercising and doing all that stuff until you black out. And a lot of people couldn't handle it.
Yeah, and people, it's for those that follow Kobe, the Black Mamba and the Mamba mentality. Uh, but when he first proposed that as a nickname that he gave himself, I don't remember who it was, one of the executives. They said, "Well, the Black Mamba dies." He goes, "Not this Black Mamba."
Thanks. Thanks. I'm glad that people got an opportunity to because we had some commenters say that a lot of the stuff that we mentioned about Kobe they didn't really know. So I was glad to kind of respond to them and hey, yeah, we did our research on him and we kind of lived through his era. So those who didn't live through his era, I hope the video gives you an insight on what the guy was and why there's so much hoopla about him when it comes to these statues and
Yeah,
his
just
legacy lived on.
general affection and love for the guy. And if
Yeah,
you're a coach, if you're a subscriber or not a subscriber and you're watching this and you coach, show that video to your kids. Show them whether they're 9, 10, 3, 4, 5, whatever age group whether it's rec league, AAU, or select league. Just show them that video. Kids are naturally curious, and the one thing they respect is a coach that cares and a coach that will discipline them. And I think if you as a coach, if you show that to your players, you'll be surprised how much respect you'll get from the kids.
facts. And all the accolades that he had, man. It's an amazing thing to see as far as him winning Academy Award for his film basketball. His love for basketball is just amazing. So his work ethic speaks for himself, and again the outpouring of all the love and people who were sad for his passing was it's really a genuine thing and he really made an impact and I remember him saying to his daughter that and he said this on the Jimmy Kimmel show. He said, man, I wish I had a boy so I can put all my basketball knowledge in him. And Gianna was like, well, you can do that to me. I want to learn basketball. And he was like, you sure right. I'm gonna teach you basketball. And he just started just putting everything in her as far as he could teach her basketball. And to have 4 girls is like a lot of men probably like, yeah, I wish I wanted a son, but he just took it in stride and just enjoyed being a dad and a husband and just making things
And
comfortable
that
for his
was quite
family.
a historical couple months.
Yeah.
Uh, you had LeBron breaking his record, then you had David Stern passing away, longtime NBA commissioner, then Kobe passed away, and then COVID hit. Like
Yeah.
that was all within 2 months.
That's crazy. It's amazing. Well, the last couple of months, well, the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of changes in the NBA as far as players not signing with their teams that they're on and moving along. Paul George is one of those players that moved along to the Philadelphia 76ers. He's 34 years old now, and he's going to Philly. And I don't know how much he has left in the tank. LeBron's almost 40, so I'm thinking, uh, PG may have 5 more years to really get it in. And the way things are now, as far as medically and health wise, players can play well into the year that he turned 40. Your thoughts on him and his progress? What will he be for Philly? And I'm not saying that he's not going to be not he's going to be an impactful player, but I don't know how much of an impact will he be, and how well will he keep his health. And what are your thoughts on that move for his PG leaving the Clippers?
I think he definitely helps Philly. He's better than Tobias Harris.
Facts.
He's maybe as good as Jimmy Butler when Jimmy Butler played Minnesota or played in Philly, or even the Jimmy Butler that took Miami Heat to the finals twice. People forget Paul George played for the Pacers, and he was before he had a gruesome leg injury. He was a heck of a player, and last year he played the most games he's played in several years.
So
So
mentioning that he played for the Pacers, remember he was the number 2 option when they had Rudy Gay.
he was the alpha. So I mean, he's definitely an upgrade from Tobias Harris. He may be as good as Jimmy Butler in that kind of a role. Uh, on that Philadelphia team, he's the third best player, and I think that's
Behind
what worked.
Maxi?
Embiid and Maxey,
Okay.
1, 2. So not having to carry a team, when Kawhi got hurt, he had to carry the team. He got Harden with some help. Westbrook didn't contribute. So, they had 4 years with the Clippers
Hmm.
and made one Western Conference Finals. But when you've got a player of that caliber as your third best player, uh, it takes a lot of pressure off. You don't have to be the star, but you can still produce. He can focus on defense one game. He can focus on offense the next game. He's a To me, he's a perfect complementary player for Embiid and Maxey. Uh,
Hmm.
those two guys going to get you buckets. So filling that role and being able to defend that glue guy, being that third best player, that's a perfect fit. And they signed Andre Drummond and uh, Caleb Martin, so they had
Hmm.
really added some other pieces too. It wasn't just Paul George. Uh,
Yeah.
my two big questions is how many games is he going to play, and how many shots will he get? Between Embiid and Maxey, there's not going to be a lot of shots there.
You don't
So
think
he's going
so?
to have to be really efficient. He might get 10, 12, maybe 15 some games, but look for him to get average around 10 to 12 shots a game. So he's going to have to be really efficient. And
So
he's been pretty efficient.
Kyle Lowry is the point guard for that squad. What about his impact? Will he help them achieve what they're trying to get to as far as the Eastern Conference Finals, at least?
Yeah, I love Kyle Lowry, but I have a saying I used to tell our kids when we played: legs go, shot goes.
Hmm.
And Kyle Lowry looks like a player that's got tired legs.
Yeah.
Not injury, just tired legs. Like there's no juice in them anymore. The speed that he used to have isn't quite good enough to blow by people. His hops aren't quite as fast. His
Yeah.
dribble good. I mean, he's what we used to see when point guards hit that 33, 34-year age, you know. Uh, he's more than just the backside of his career. Like, didn't Miami have him for a while? They let
Yep.
him go. So, I mean, Philly has made some other moves. I just if you get 55, 60 games out of Paul George and then he's healthy for the playoffs like he was last year, uh, that's a win-win-win all the way around for the Sixers or Philly.
So who do you think will start in that guard position? Reggie Jackson or Kyle Lowry?
You get I don't think it's going to matter. I think the uh, Doc Rivers will play matchup depending on who they play against.
Mm,
Because Maxi's kind of your combo guard. He's been forced to play point guard. He played point guard at Garland here in Dallas. He's he's in the shooting guard role. Uh, think of Devin Booker, but a better handler, better distributor.
mm.
So Maxi's your bucket getter. He can distribute the ball. So I think the point guard is really going to be a matchup thing. Do they need somebody that can guard, or do they need somebody that can pound? Somebody can go to the rim. I think the point guard is going to be in flux because they want the ball in Maxi's hands. And I wouldn't be surprised if they let Paul George to give Maxi a break. They let Paul George bring the ball up and initiate the offense.
Mm. So what are your predictions on that squad for next year? Will they win the East or will they be close? What are your
Home
thoughts?
court advantage. I mean, you got the the East is loaded. I mean, between Boston, the Knicks, Cleveland, eh, Milwaukee, even they're not going away. Then you throw in Philly. There's 5 teams fighting for 4 spots for home court. Uh, Embiid, let's he's what 30? Didn't he just turn 30 or 31?
I can check right now. MB is currently Joel Embiid is 30. Yes.
Yeah, he just turned 30. So in his first couple years, he didn't he didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
Hence, hence the trust the process. But I mean that's a three-legged stool that's pretty solid, and the pieces they put around them, they perform. I think they'll do pretty well. I think they'll probably have home court advantage at least for one round. Uh, the Knicks didn't have had a lot of injuries last year. Cleveland had a lot of injuries last year. Milwaukee had a lot of injuries last year. The one team that didn't have many injuries was Boston.
Mhm. Quick question though. Do you think if Doc Rivers does not make the Eastern Conference Finals, how secure would his job be after this coming up season?
European players just don't think that way. Most of them. I think when Giannis signed that extension after they traded for Damian Lillard, he basically said, "I don't want to go anywhere else."
Mm,
And this will be you have a full off season and and training camp for Lillard and Giannis to work it out. Uh, I think Adrian Griffin got the short end of the stick. I'm not sure Doc Rivers is a better coach, but we'll see.
yeah, I agree, man. They should have did Doc better than what they did because he was not a bad coach. I mean, it's not Doc, but Adrian Griffin. Because I mean, we watched him in Dallas, and I think them doing that, it has to be something more to what they're telling us because he was.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
doesn't make
how
sense.
far did Lob City go? You know,
Yeah.
not with a prime Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and Chris Paul. Uh, so I
I
mean,
agree.
he's a good tactician, but uh, you give those players to Rick Carlisle, whoo,
And so with Philly, Nick Nurse, this is what his first or second season with them.
Nick Nurse that
Hmm.
that coached at Toronto. Or-
Well, he's coaching Philly now.
I didn't know that's where he ended up.
Let me double check my fact because I'm looking at ESPN and they're saying that Nick Nurse is the coach of Philly.
Was Nick Nurse the one at Milwaukee when they won, or at Toronto when they won? It
That
was
was
one of those
Toronto.
two teams.
It was
Toronto.
Toronto because
Yeah,
Bud Hauser is the one who won in Milwaukee. Bud Hauser, is that how you pronounce it?
Buttholes.
Something like that. Somewhere. But Nick Nurse won in
Another
Toronto.
Popovich uh, tree off the Greg Popovich tree.
But in your opinion, you think Paul George is a good fit, and they will. What do you think? 3-2, or will they be maybe 6 or 7?
3 or 4. I don't think they'll be first or second.
And that's just with the addition to Paul. I mean, do you think? I mean, I guess we got to see how he look in the offseason. He's not probably going to play not many preseason games just to kind of give him not
It
so many minutes.
they signed that Andre Drummond. It's Embiid's going to get hurt. Paul George's going to miss some games, even if it's just for maintenance.
Hmm.
Maxi having to carry that team is a lot different than what Boston's up against. Boston's got a lot of plug and play guys. Eh,
So who would be their rival in the East if they say, for
Oh, the
instance, they
Knicks.
nick
The
the
Knicks.
Knicks?
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, it was the Celtics.
But it's
Uh,
still the Celtics. They just won the championship. That would be their rival to me.
yeah, in the early '80s, all the way through the '80s, Sixers and Celtics were heated rivalry.
Yeah, true, 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 true. But like, I think the Knicks, in my opinion, and this is we really still talking about Paul George, but the Knicks probably would be 5 or 6 in my opinion, as far as in the standings.
Yeah,
But Philly,
there's some bad blood between the Knicks and the Sixers over the last few years.
yeah, I think it's been commonplace throughout these two teams' existence.
Yeah,
I think who you think would be number one in the East if it's not Philly?
going to depend on injuries. Indiana surprised a lot of people, so they're gonna got another year of growth. Uh, you added Mikal Bridges to the Knicks, and Boston is still Boston.
Hmm.
So I, the road that until proven otherwise, right now the road goes through Boston.
Facts. And I think
E-
they
even
probably
though
both.
even though a lot of people like to hate on Boston, because the Red Sox and the Patriots and the Bruins and the Celtics, everybody loves to hate on a winner, but
But in my opinion, I think Boston will probably end up maybe 3 or 4. I'm thinking the Knicks will probably jump up to maybe 2. And looking at Philly, Philly may end up being 1, but I don't know yet. It's just to be
weren't
seen.
they
So
in weren't they first in the league up to about the All-Star break when Embiid got hurt?
you're right. Absolutely right. And it all went to shambles after he got hurt. But any more thoughts on Paul George? I really like the addition, but I don't see it's gonna. I have to see what they look like in preseason to see how it kind of flows and see what they're doing because I know practice is gonna be intense with Nick Nurse pushing everybody's buttons to get him going. But I don't
He
know how he's gonna perceive or be
Well,
perceived.
Paul George, I don't remember how many years ago, but he was in the 50-40-90 club. For those
Mm,
listeners, that's 50% from the field, 40% from three-point range, and 90% from three-point. Uh, I would expect 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists from Paul George on this team.
gotcha.
Average. That's not shabby numbers. And
You do.
defensively, he's going to give you something that Tobias Harris just didn't give you.
I got you. Well, that was a great conversation tonight, man. I think we're gonna see some really good games this coming season, especially in the East. You know, the Mavs gonna do their thing; they've been reloaded. But the conversation tonight was amazing, as always. You know, we appreciate you guys for watching. Bob, you know, just tell the people where they can find you at, a little bit about your social media handles. You know, we always close the show out like that, and you know, give you shout outs if you have any.
Well, you can find me on YouTube, two places, Boogie Bob or Swish for Real, and I'm on Facebook. You know, us old farts, we're on Facebook. We're not on the new stuff like Twitter and Instagram and all that. I like those are just for picking fights. I'm more of a harmonious person, but subscribe, Swish for Real.
That's
Subscribe.
real. That's real. And guys, you can always catch me on YouTube generally. We do have an X account if you want to check that out. We have a Swish for Real account there. We don't post much on there just yet, but we're
You
trying
can
to
buy
kind
a
of grow
shirt.
that. Oh yeah, and then also if again those subscribers are the commenters, we get the best comments, we'll pick you. And if your comment is dope, we're gonna definitely send you a shirt, man. We just got to get your information, and we'll definitely send you one of these shirts if you want one. And we'll have a place where you can buy them here pretty soon. So just keep that in mind. But again, it's been a great show, Bob. As always, I appreciate your love, man. I had fun tonight. We talked about some great topics, Paul George, Bonzi Wells. Man, it's just been an amazing show. The Mavs, all of it, man. So if you guys have any questions, hit us up, leave a comment. I appreciate you coming in. Swish for Real, man. We are out, man. Have a great one.
That's it, Pray.